Well, the Asian astrology and narcissism sort of link because you can determine who has a tendency to be narcissistic based on the element or year of their birth, right? And that's why a lot of people in the earth element don't like that rap and the metal element because they're prone to becoming sort of if they go too deep into the dark side, they can become abusive, and most abuse is centered around narcissism. So again, that's why a lot of people in the earth element don't like to hear that. But if you don't go into the dark side, and you don't, you sort of control yourself, and you don't end up controlling others and starting an abusive relationship. But generally speaking, the narcissistic personality disorder just one of several types of personality disorders, right? It's a behaviorable disorder, right? I mean, yes, you are born. A lot of people are born and prone to develop this sort of toxic behavioral disorder or personality disorder, but in the end, it's really formed in your childhood. But first, let me describe what it is. So it's a mental condition which people have sort of an inflated sense of their own importance, right? They think they're just the god, or the goddess, and they're just an overinflated sense of self, So they have this deep need for excessive attention and admiration, But the thing is, they don't have any empathy for others. They can't feel they can't really feel other people's sadness or pain or suffering. And it ends up causing problems because look, in every relationship that you're in, whether it's with your parent, your sibling, your work colleague, your boss, manager, your spouse, your children, you have to feel what the other person is feeling, right? If they're having a bad day or they're going through a hard time in their life, you need to show empathy, right? And compassion and kindness. And they just can't do that. And that's where the problem with narcissistic personality disorder, sort of comes from, So what causes it? Like I said, it sort of develops during your childhood, right? So, if you were abused as a child and neglected as a child, it sort of opens the door for you to become narcissistic, right? If your parents always have unrealistic expectations about you, oh, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you got to have these high grades, because, you deserve better, or you are better, or you come from a better lineage or family, whatever, it sort of opens that door for the person to develop narcissistic personality disorder later on in life, right? But then the opposite, it could be the opposite. If you have a parent who's always pampering you, right, giving you excessive praise, or parental overindulgence, again, it makes you feel that, you develop an inflated sense of your own self-importance. Oh, wow, my parents did that to me. I must be somebody that's important. And so everyone has to sort of treat me like I'm the king or the prince or the queen or the princess, right? Again, there's a genetic predisposition, right? You could be born with some, the potential to acquire these behaviors, right? But at the end of the day, it's really your environment that you grew up in as a child, right? And sometimes if a parent is narcissistic, right, you learn that manipulative behavior from that parent, right? So that's what it is. So when how do you know if someone is narcissistic? That's easy. There are signs and symptoms. Like I said, feelings of self-importance, superiority, right? But then you have someone who's always sort of looking at themselves in the mirror, thinking they're hot shit. They're so good looking. They're successful. They're powerful. A good example of this is our former president, Donald Trump. That's a classic case of a narcissist right there, right? So they believe that they're different, they're special, they're above everybody else. Right? Because maybe they're descendants of royalty or a wealthier class or a political elite, or a diplomat, right? They need to be looked up, by others, right? And they have feelings of entitlement. They deserve special treatment, right? And so what happens is they learn how to sort of manipulate others so they can take advantage of them, to exploit them, right? And so, like I said, they don't care about the other person's feelings because they can't empathize with them, right? They can't empathize with the other person's needs, their desires, their emotions, but these narcissists are very jealous people. They're very envious. When they see others that have better than them, they get very, very jealous, right? But in general, they seem to be very arrogant and excessively proud. So in terms of their relationships with other people, they just see other people other partners, even including their own partner or spouse or whatever, as objects. In my own experience, that's what happened with me, where I realized that I was nothing more than an object to my late wife, right? I was just there to sort of get ahead in life and get her goals accomplished because she felt she was entitled to it all, right? So and so what narcissists tend to do is they try to convince you that you're inferior, right? You're beneath them, and in order to make themselves feel, superior, right? And then once you realize who they are and you try and leave, and you should leave. Once you're in a relationship with a narcissist, the main goal is to leave, get out as fast as you can. But once you do leave, they're gonna convince their new partner, their next partner, that you're the crazy one, you are the abusive one, you are the bad one, right? And there's even a possibility that they did that when they started their relationship with you, right? So if they met you, oh yeah, my ex was a crazy bitch, you know what I mean, or whatever, crazy bastard, and then to make you believe that's why they broke up, and now she or he is on with you, right? But you have to understand this is a cycle that they repeat with everybody, right? Because the world revolves around them. Okay, so they don't think that you're different. They don't really believe that you're different than the previous partner because you don't deserve, any less affection or any more affection than the previous person that they were with. And the reason why that is because they can't love. They don't know how to love, right? They don't feel empathy. They don't like intimacy. They don't know. They don't understand it. They can't get it. With the exception of the actual sexual act, there's no intimacy there between a narcissist and someone who's not narcissistic, right? They can't have a regular conversation. It's all about them. They want a relationship with you for validation and control, not for love. So again, you have to understand this person will never return your love, no matter what you do. So.
Well, so you say that your wife was a narcissist. So
yes.
Did you know that beforehand? And if not, when did you find that out?
No, I found out after the fact, after she passed away, when someone told me, the way I described her, she was narcissistic. And then, and they had experience with it because their parents were narcissistic. And I ended up looking it up and reading it into, all kinds of resources, including the reference book used by psychologists and psychiatrists, and I realized the pattern. I just at the time I didn't look at it from that point. What I looked at it was from an astrological point, because then I started referencing again, going back to rereading Takeo Mori's book, and I realized that there was incompatibility from a spiritual and astrological sense, but from a psychological, psychiatric sense, I didn't, sort of comprehend that or realize that after the fact she had passed away, right? Because you remember during the altercation when she attacked me, she died of a heart attack, and I didn't even know until after she passed away until somebody told me, right? Look, because this is the thing. Narcissists are very good at pretending. They're masters at pretending, right? They learned how to act normal, right? Because they've seen other people do it, or they had, past experience, trial and error. But it doesn't come from within them. They don't know how to act normal. They just do it, and they, for the sake of appearances, and you don't even know that you're playing a game with them until it's too late, right? So, so it's hard when you're in it. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's very, very hard. You don't know it, but eventually it comes out. The mask falls off, okay, and you realize who they are, right? So, and it's really sad because you don't really mean anything to them. You thought that you were together for so long, or you have a child together or something, and you don't really mean anything to them, right? So the pattern for a narcissist is to move on to someone new, right? Who doesn't know, the games that they're playing. So once you learn about their games, they'll drop you. They'll drop you and they'll find somebody else who doesn't know how to play the game, right? So rather than changing themselves to become a better person, right? They'll just change partners and play a game with someone who doesn't know the rules of the game, right? So that's how they can be very manipulative. They control you. They wear their mask. But the best way to do, like I said, is to run away. First, be indifferent to them, and then plan your exit. Plan your exit and run for the hills.
Well, that's fascinating. So how do you help a narcissist? Like, or can they become aware and want to change? What is there some sort of intervention, or is this people's personalities traits and they just have to run its course?
There is no cure for narcissism. There's no pill like depression or anxiety, right? There's no medication for it. They have to, a narcissist has to realize that they have a problem, and very, very, very few of them realize that it's a problem. They don't seem to understand that they have a problem. They think that it's how you play the game of life, and so and so even if, for example, they get caught for committing a crime, and then they'll go and pretend that, yes, I'm seeing the psychologist or psychiatrist and I'm going to get better. But at the end of the game, they're trying to fool the psychologist or psychiatrist, so that way they can get a pardon and not have a criminal record. But the best psychologists and psychiatrists know they're playing the game, and they go, this person is just putting on a show to get out of the trouble that they're in. They don't understand, the narcissists don't understand that it's a problem, and because there's so many people out there in the world, hey, I'll just find another sucker. You know what I mean? That's how they are. And in their mind, and I remember my late wife was telling me this. She goes, and the example that she used was the concept of Superman and Lex Luthor, because Lex Luthor is a typical narcissist, right? He's grandiose. He's from a wealthy family. He thinks he should be, the hero that should be worshipped, and not Superman, who does, who's trying to sort of do good things altruistically, but without any praise. But people still end up praising him. So he said, fools are Superman, who are always trying to do good, and then they get the praise afterwards. Whereas the smarter people are Lex Luthor, who will manipulate people, engage in sneaky criminal activity, and then and then at the end of the day, try to present himself as the hero. So that's how they see it. They see another narcissist is a smart one, the one who ends up succeeding in life, whereas the good people, like Superman, are the fools and the idiots. So they don't see it. They don't see it as a problem. And if you don't see the problem, how can you go and get treated for it? How can you go and sincerely sit down with a psychologist and psychiatrist and resolve the issue? They don't see the problem.
Yeah, they don't even know that they are one, right? They don't even know. No, they just think, hey, I'm just a person and I just do these things.
Exactly. So. And they think it's normal because other smart people do the same thing that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So since your ex-wife, you've been on the lookout for this. Have you come across other people that have exhibited these traits?
Yeah. So the next relationship that I had after she passed away, I realized, I guess, after 4 years of dating her, that she was a narcissist. Again, they're very good at putting on a show for 2 or 3 years, but after 2 or 3 years, the mask falls off and their true colors show, the true colors of their face show, right? And so then you start realizing, oh, I saw this before, and then the next thing you want to do is run away. And once you try and run away, if they really need that energy from you, that supply, because that's all they are. Narcissists are parasites who need the energy of others to sort of live, for their self-esteem or even for their, whatever goals they have in life. And if you're that source of supply, they don't want to let you go. That's why they put on the show for 2-3 years. And after that, then once they get comfortable, the mask falls off, you start seeing who they are. And then, you're trying to run away and they're trying to latch on to you. But there are red flags, if there are red flags to look out for, so if they come at you from the very beginning and they're love bombing you, literally bombing you and showering you with love, there's something there, because most people don't do that. When they meet someone and they develop feelings for you, they're not just going to go super crazy with all the affection and love. They're trying to hide something, but at the same time, they're trying to suck you in with their love, the so-called love bombing, right? They're going to mask, put on a mask, and hide their evil side, that to be hell, that they're funny people, charming, they won't accept no for an answer. So you say, if you say, oh, you tell them, oh, I'm not sure I want to date you, or I don't want to continue to be in a relationship with you, they won't accept no for an answer, right? They don't respect your boundaries. They insist on having it their way. right? They want to commit to you so soon. You've dated them for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. They want to move in together. They want to start having a family. And then later on, they'll deny it. They'll, oh, no, I did that. I never said that. I never did that. So they study you. They see what your weaknesses are, what your needs are, and they just go for it, right? So they tend to cut you off, when they speak, when you speak, because, it's all about them. They want to monopolize the conversation. So these are signs, when they first met you, they have a story to tell you about how they were either the hero or a victim in their last relationship, whether it's at work or with their partner or whatever, and then they learn how to sort of manipulate you with pity and guilt. Oh, they're very good at the guilt trips. Oh, and then they play with your jealousy. If you're a jealous person, they say, oh, this other person wants me. And if you don't want me, I'll go to this other person. So, but they themselves are overly jealous. So once they see that somebody else wants you, or you're doing well for yourself in your career, they become jealous, right? So another clue is always vet them. Another you need to do, right, to sort of develop the next clue of whether or not they're a narcissist or not, is to vet them. Do an investigation on them. They hate that. When you hire a PI or you do your own work, you go and speak to their friends from school, right? Or, their former colleagues at work, or even other family members. They hate it because the truth comes out that they were probably cruel, to a family member, right? Like their mother, for example, right? Who are, my mom's not going anywhere, and they can always be verbally abusive to their mother, right? Or their father, whatever the case may be, or a younger brother, right? Or an older brother or sister. Or they said that they had problems at work, with the coworker. I used to work with her, and she always gave problems to all the other coworkers, or maybe, in school, oh, she was a class bully, Those are signs that he could very well be a narcissist, right? So that's how you have to find out who they are, because being alone with them, you're not going to find out who they are, because they're putting on a show for a couple of years. And you have to do your research, your vetting, your investigation, and they hate it. They hate when they find out that you went behind their backs to get more information about them. They absolutely hate it. They feel that you violated their trust, right?
Well, isn't that violating your trust? Like, I'm not a narcissist, but why would you go dig into my past? I would just tell, if you want to know something, I would tell you. So wouldn't anyone be like, hey, that is an invasion of privacy. Are you looking through my shit?
Look, this is the way I think. This is the way I see it. If you're going to invest your time, your resources, your energy, everything for this one person, don't you want to know who you're dealing with? Right? That's the way I see it. That's the way many people see it. Right? Mm-hmm. I found out, okay, one of these girls I was dating had a criminal record. And I would not have found out if I didn't go and, did my own research and investigation. Oh, wow, she got a criminal record and it's a serious shit. I'm not, I'm having doubts about this relationship. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go through with it. Would you? Wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you know some girl a woman that you're dating, you're interested in, has a criminal record for some serious shit that happened 5, 6, 7 years ago? Do you want to really continue with the relationship?
Well, see, I think about these things. First, yes, I would want to know if somebody had a past like that. Number one, but number two, it's like, okay, depending on how many years ago that was, they may have been they could have changed now. What if I'm in my 40s? What if I met somebody who's 40? Maybe they committed a crime when they were 20, and I see that like, oh, okay. And so that kind of maybe pre-prejudices me unnecessarily, number one. Number two, just because someone, for example, you can only find what's reported. You know how many people have a past and have done things that they haven't been caught for, and you'll never know if they don't tell you.
Yeah.
So exactly. The only difference between you and someone else is that they got caught.
Yeah.
And so it's important to keep that in mind when you're digging through people's past records, is that what you're finding is probably the same stuff you did. You just didn't get caught. And so you have to be careful when making judgments about people and digging into their past. I kind of prefer to, if I just met someone, I'm not going to assume that they're lying unless I start seeing patterns. But I don't know. I know that maybe I'm rare. I know a lot of people just Google people all the time now.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm just one of those rare people that never jumped onto that bandwagon. Every time I hear a new name, I got to go Google them. I just don't do it. So.
Yeah. But it depends. I mean, everything is circumstantial, right? If they got arrested for assaulting, some guy or some woman that they were dating with, wouldn't you want to know if they had a temper or violent sort of attribute to them? You want to, right? Or if they were they had a reputation for being a black widow, you know what I mean? They'll go and hook up with someone that got money and then find a way to sort of put them in jail or have them killed. And then they got away with it, for so long, but then they got caught. I mean, don't you want to know that? I mean, these are serious stuff. If they were abusive towards their mother or their father, well, how are they going to be with you if you decide to live together or continue a relationship together? That's the kind of thing that it's in your best interest to find out. We're talking at the end about your well-being, what's in your best interest, right? And your safety. A lot of people who stayed with narcissists end up getting serious illnesses behind it. They get post-traumatic stress like I do. For me, it's not that bad. But every once in a while, I wake up with nightmares, based on stuff that I've been through with my narcissistic late wife. There are other people who have been with narcissists and they end up having like sort of, they develop chronic fear and anxiety, because they were with a narcissist, right? Their own immune system gets weak, causing them problems with their heart and their gastrointestines, right? They get ulcers and irritable bowel syndrome. Some people, I've read cases where people have decreased fertility rates because they were with a narcissist before. There's I've read instances where people had chronic fatigue, type 2 diabetes, accelerated aging. For me, I've aged. If you compare me to any normal person of my age, and you see the deep circle on my eyes under my eyes, which never seem to go away. I've lost all my hair. Hair loss is very common among men who've been with narcissistic women, right? You hear about depression, people getting, chronic fatigue, emotional exhaustion, forgetfulness, confusion, loss of memory, insomnia, poor work performance, social withdrawal, tension headaches, heart attacks even. These are things that are your health, your well-being. Do you want to acquire these just because you decide to stay with a narcissist? It's not worth it. You're better off vetting or investigating who you're going to spend your life with, to avoid these things. That's the way I see it. That's my story with narcissists, how it ties with astrology, again, it's all in my book. I talk about astrology, I talk about narcissism, I talk about a lot of stuff. That's why it's so big. And like I said, it's the 6 stories, contained in one. If you want to know about that stuff, you just have to read the one chapter and you won't get lost. You won't get lost in the overall story of
Well, tell us about story. The book. As you said, there's 6 chapters. Tell us about the book. What's in the book? What does it talk about? What does it hit on? What are the chapters like?
So I start off with the way things are in the world in terms of the hostility towards, men, and also men of color, right? So that's one chapter. That's like basically the first chapter that I talk about. It sort of set the context of what happened to me and my family. Then the second chapter talks about how my parents, came to this country or these countries, this continent, North America, and how they try to make a life for themselves, and and our accomplishments, including mine. I've had, like I said, I speak 4 languages fluently. I've been to, I've got 3 university degrees, 2 college diplomas. Worked for reputable places, and then chapter 3 is where I sort of talk about my relationship with my wife, how I met her, how we started a family together. And, the problems in the relationship with, the abuse, the narcissism, all that stuff. And then chapter 4 is, my host part by being arrested and accused of her dying. She died of a heart attack, but, I presented enough evidence there to present, well, they screwed up. They could have prevented this from happening to police, and they didn't because, I'm a man of color, and they didn't want to get involved with me and my kids, making sure my kids were safe against their mother and her lover. And then they ended up, making me the scapegoat, making me go to jail, and then losing everything in my life. And then chapter 5 is a prison story. If you love prison stories, what's going on in prison. I lived there. I was in prison. for basically 4 years, and until I have to be able to clear my name and get retried. And this chapter 6 is, the retrial. We get the retrial, I get exonerated, the truth comes out, but at the end, I still lost a lot of stuff. I lost my kids, I lost my career, I lost my life savings, and so I'm on my path to rebuilding my life. And so you don't have to read all of it. If you just want to focus on abusive relationships and narcissism, chapter 3 is for you. You're not going to get lost. Just read chapter 3 or listen to chapter 3, and that's it. If you don't like that stuff, but you want to know the prison stuff, what goes on in prison, that kind of stuff, chapter 5 is for you. If you love courtroom stuff, chapter 6 is for you. And if you want to talk about more focus on, like xenophobia or discrimination, against people that are, of color or of a different, or you're a man, right? Because basically we're living in a woman's world. In North America, we are living in a woman's world. If you want to read that stuff, chapter 1's for you.
Whoa, that's a controversial thing to say. Not to me. It's not controversial to me, but it's a controversial thing to say. Whoa. So why are we living in a woman's world?
Well, look, it started in the late 1960s and the early 70s with the feminist movement, equality. And that's fine. I agree with it. Men and women, we are different, but we should be treated as equal in society, right? But we've reached a point where we've passed that stage, and now women want more and more and more, and in some cases they deserve, more. We just had our first Black female judge, elected, didn't we? Right? I don't know if you follow politics, but first time in America, the first Black female judge, on I think it was the Supreme Court, right? And that's a great milestone. And she deserved it. From what I understand, she worked hard, she deserved it. You have these people on the far right who, we're just doing that to sort of please the masses. She doesn't deserve to be there. But that's bullshit. If you deserve something through effort and through merit, all the more power to you. But when you start having others who just automatically get things because they're a woman, like they automatically get custody of a child, regardless of if she was involved in the child's life, if she actually poured some love, if she's not abusive towards the child, you know what I mean? Fine. In my case, it was clear after the fact, when they interviewed my daughter after she passed away, that she was abusive towards my daughter, right? Clearly, she didn't deserve to get full custody, of our children. But that's what the divorce lawyers were trying to do before she passed away, before we even got to the divorce court, 1 month before she passed away. So it has to be based on merit. Oftentimes, we give women the benefit of the doubt to give them more because they happen to be women. There's still a lot of work to be done. I agree. Like there's still wage gaps between men and women in the world, and it's slowly. That gap is closing. But soon, what we're going to see, what I predict seeing, is that educated women are going to make more money than educated men. We're heading in that direction. A lot of men don't want to go to a university, or a lot of men, are going to be sort of overlooked to sort of make up for past mistakes that our fathers and forefathers have done to women, and push them upwards more and more and more. And it's getting to women's heads to the point where a lot of women now are becoming more abusive. And, I'm seeing it. And even every day in the news, I'm seeing, how Johnny Depp now is in court now with his ex-wife, and now he's suing her and she's suing him, and who knows how that's going to end. I really hope that Johnny Depp wins his case, but it's very possible that Amber Heard is going to win her case and get the money, plus this alleged defamation that, Johnny Depp put her through in the media, right? So that's why I say it's more and more becoming a woman's world. It is, and in Canada, it's even worse than in the United States, but the United States is definitely getting there. It's definitely getting there.
Well, that's very interesting. I do think that society has made strides to empower women. That is definitely true. And I do think, that there are some elements of society and culture that could be a little bit more fair to men. The society is geared towards women's behavior. And they increasingly view men's behavior as bad or disorderly. when it's not. It's just a different set of things that men need. Education definitely has slanted towards women as far as behavioral concerns are concerned. There's a whole bunch of things that are going on with that. And so that's interesting that you should say that.